Hi everybody. In this video, we're going to read the next chapter of Enemy Spy. Chapter 19, Charge. I know from experience that when Bubba wants to bring someone down, he brings them down. Chatty's cameraman didn't have a chance. Oh dude, I'm so sorry, Bubba said. He helped him up, then accidentally tripped and knocked him over again. Meanwhile, I was zeroing in on the camera. I got my hands on the battery. The camera twisted away. I got my hands on it again, and click, thwack. Battery number one was mine. Boy, was it heavy. I held it between my knees, and click, thwack. I pulled off the backup battery. Lucky for me, Shadi was too busy being pushy to pay attention to what was going on. The cameraman was back on his feet now. Bubba was dusting him off. So far, Bubba the bouncer rocked. He looked my way and I gave him a nod. Mission accomplished. We raced back over to the rest of the kids. Stay cool, I told him as I stashed the batteries in my backpack and strapped the backpack on. Stay totally cool. He nodded, but he was anything but cool. He was amped and panting like crazy. After he caught his breath, he whispered, I'm loving this. So now what? So now we listen, I whispered back. We listen? Bubba whispered back. Shh, I warned. I've got to find out what's going on. Good evening, the man in the suit and tie said, holding onto the podium with both hands while Sarge stood off to one side. As many of you know, I'm Scott Yardland, Cedar Valley's chief of police. Unfortunately, our bucolic community. Bucolic? What's that? Bubba whispered. Lots of trees, I whispered back. Has apparently been home to the maneuverings of an international spy ring. Have you apprehended the spies? Chatty Adams shouted. If you'll please be patient, Chief Yardland said, giving her a hard look. We'll get to that. He went back to his speech. Please understand that we're in the middle of a very complex and delicate situation. There are things we are not yet at liberty to disclose. Disclose? Bobo whispered. Tell us about, I whispered back. There are things he can't tell us about. But what I can tell you is that we have arrested one individual and have detained three others, all connected to a cash for secrets exchange that we believe took place under the Blackstone Way Bridge. Unfortunately, none of these individuals in custody is cooperating with authorities. I can also tell you that the arrested man has been positively ID'd as the individual we suspect of selling the highly sensitive classified documents. What is the nature of the documents? A lady with a notepad called out. Chief Yardland gave her a friendly little smirk. That they're classified. Top secret. Military? Another reporter asked. The FBI has asked me not to discuss specifics. I am not at liberty to say anything more about the documents at this time. All of a sudden, there was a big commotion across the crowd from us. Chatty's arms were flying in the air as she yelled at her cameraman. Then she started yelling at Roy. I grinned at Bubba. Bubba grinned at me. We slapped a high five on each other and watched as Chatty zoomed around, trying to bum a battery off another cameraman. How about the other people you've detained? A reporter shouted at the chief. You've got a woman, her husband, and a teacher in custody, is that right? Yes. They have not been charged with anything yet. Our initial impression was that they were only involved peripherally. Peripherally? Bubba whispered. On the edge. Only a little, I whispered back, wishing Chief Yardland would stop using such big words. But it's clear that they are holding back information. We'll see what transpires over the next few hours. Transpires? Bubba asked. Happens, I whispered back. Why doesn't he just say that? I shrugged. Good question. What's the Shredderman connection? Harry Kane called out. The chief sighed. Shredderman is the one who brought the money for secret situation to our attention. At first we thought he was assisting law enforcement, We now believe he, or she, or they may be someone with an axe to grind. Someone who was once part of the sparring and is now on the outs. You're crazy, I shouted. People nearby stared at me. Oops. Baba whispered, Stay cool, dude, remember? But how could they think that? How could they possibly think that? The chief went on. Regardless, our three detainees will either be released if they answer questions to the FBI's satisfaction, or be arrested on charges of conspiracy and obstruction of justice. Arrested for conspiracy? Obstruction of justice? No. No, 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 no. I didn't even know I was shouting it out loud. Baba tried to hold me back, but I twisted free and pushed through the crowd. These were my parents, my teacher. They were the best friends I'd ever had. How could I let them be arrested for obstruction of justice? They weren't answering questions because they were protecting my secret identity. I could see them now, under a hot, bare bulb, being grilled by the FBI, being tortured with questions they wouldn't answer because of me. All because they'd been so stubborn for fighting for truth and justice. Well, what kind of truth and justice was this? They were going to go to jail because of me. You're wrong, I shouted. I ducked under the yellow caution tape and cried. You're completely wrong. Chief Yardlin said something about removing me from the area, but Sarge stepped in and said, It's okay, Chief. This is the bird's son. He's just upset. I'm not just upset, I shouted. Boy, did I ever sound upset. But I kept right on shouting. They're not spies. They don't have an axe to grind. They didn't have anything to do with any of this. The chief was looking at me like he felt so sorry for me. Like I was just a poor little kid who didn't understand how the real world worked. I looked around at the crowd. Everyone was thinking the same thing as Chief Yardlin. Poor kid. His parents are spies. They're not spies, and they're not Shredderman. I looked at the crowd, at all the cameras aimed my way, at all the people staring at me, at the kids from my school and the teachers and my principal. Sarge put his arm around my shoulders and tried to pull me aside, saying, Now, Nolan. I twisted away from him and shouted, I know for a fact they're not spies, and I know for a fact they're not Shredderman. I know because... The crowd fell quiet. I could hear the breeze sweep through tree branches. Pine needles seemed to fall in slow motion. Everything seemed a little fuzzy, soft. Because? Sarge prompted. I took a deep breath, and slowly everything came into focus. So I turned to face the crowd and said it loud, said it strong. I know because I'm Shredderman.